We have Andrea Evans and Carrie Mitchum in studio to talk about their new documentary, Rocking the Couch. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's iTalk Movies.
Hey everyone, welcome to Popcorn Talk, iTalk Movies. I'm your host, Tami, Goveia, and today I'm joined in studio by Andrea Evans and Carrie Mitchum, two very special daytime television actresses. Welcome. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Want to introduce, so this is also a podcast. So, hello, podcast listeners. Want to introduce first Carrie Mitchum. You originated the role of Donna Logan from The Bold and the Beautiful.
I did,
You
a long
did,
time ago.
a long time ago. But what's so amazing about B&B, it's one of the most internationally recognized
It is,
soap operas. I
yeah.
mean, from day one to present day. It's globally
Yeah,
a love.
The Bells did a really good job getting it into a lot of foreign markets early on.
Yes.
And so it's had a following internationally for quite a while.
And we have Andrea Evans. Girl, you have so many iconic roles. I know you from One Life to
One
Live.
Life to Live, right?
Tina Lord Clayton.
Tina Clayton Lord,
Tina Clayton,
Roberts,
yes,
Roberts.
there were
I
a
think
few
I married him 3
marriages.
times. I don't know. I forget.
But we also have you as Tawny Moore on The Bold and the Beautiful, Rebecca Hotchkiss Crane on Passions,
Yes.
Patty Williams on Y&R, and most recently, Patty Walker on the Bay series.
Yep, that would be me.
That would be you. We talked about this briefly earlier, but congratulations on the Bay and
Thank you.
the momentum behind that show has been fierce.
Oh yes, the following is huge, and it was so much fun to shoot and to do, and working with all these different soap stars from different shows that I never worked with before, and it's interesting, the whole filming process. It's more like a film, you do it, and streaming, it's a whole different thing.
It's a whole different world.
Yeah, whole
And
different
we were
world.
talking about that too, how much the world has changed.
Absolutely.
In regards to media and working as an actor or producer. But we are here to talk about Rocking the Couch. So a documentary that you, Andrea, produced.
Yes, I'm the executive producer.
You're the executive producer, and Carrie, you participated
Yep.
in the documentary.
Yes.
So please tell us a little bit about what the documentary is about and a little bit about the origins, how it all started.
Well, I should say I'm one of the executive producers.
One of
That
the-
sounds like I
there's
was
never
cutting
just
out my
one.
other partners. Actually, because one of the executive producers, Min Collins, who is also the director, is a director I worked with on a film called Hit List. And we became fast friends after we did it, and we were always talking about, how I kind of wanted to get into producing as well. And we were meeting for coffee, as we are wont to do. And it was right during the whole Harvey Weinstein Bill Cosby thing coming to a head on the news, and we're like, we don't think America is really, or the rest of the world, I should say, is getting the whole picture here. And we said, yeah, somebody's going to make a good documentary about this. And then we just kind of looked at each other and literally were like, let's do this. And so we did. Within 2 weeks, we were doing it.
Now, before we see the trailer, how many months did this take?
Well, we tried to do it as fast as we could. The whole idea was to make it kind of get in there and shoot it, fast and quick and dirty and get it done while it was still topical. I mean, the idea was not really to make the most artistically beautiful documentary on the planet. It was to make something that people would be talking about and to get it out there while people were still talking about the subject.
And it's interesting that you say that. There are some people out there that say, and they've said this to me, "Okay, enough, we get it. Enough already. Like, we get there's an issue, we get there's a problem, but let's move on."
Right.
So we'll talk about why it's important that this documentary is out and why the
Absolutely.
conversation needs to continue.
Continue, yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at the trailer for Rocking the Couch.
An avalanche of sexual assault allegations.
When I first arrived to LA, I didn't know what to do at all. I had no friends, I didn't know where to go, so I just kind of took it upon myself to learn things. Of course, I went on Craigslist
for saying an
Scared me
independent
so much when she
film.
said that.
They needed a woman
couldn't
in my
believe it.
age range, so I submitted my headshot and resume. I got a call to come in, and when I came to the casting, it was in an apartment building.
I wanted to know if I could meet with him later on that evening, around 7:30, which was basically after closing.
It seemed to be a dinner and drinks thing. And you know, I was like 25 at the time, so I was like, okay, well, I don't know what standard protocol is.
The whole dinner was not based anything on my project, and I kept trying to steer it into that direction.
And he opened the door and turned off the light around
Telling
and
your
locked the
story
door,
makes it-
started pushing me toward the bedroom. And I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
So I go and shove him off me.
And he said, you know you want to do this.
Next thing I knew, I was slammed up against a table.
I could tell that he had an erection because I could feel it. He raped me.
Back in 1992, I was a sergeant in charge of the Gang Special Investigations Unit for the city of Glendale.
I got involved with the Burbank Police Department in about 1992.
Talent agent was arrested for sexual assault.
And they were looking to use one of my detectives undercover to try and assist their investigation.
Apparently there had been several victims that stated they were sexually either harassed or assaulted by him.
The boss or the employer now makes a pass at you and has sex with you against your will. So then it becomes a sexual assault, and sexual assault includes sexual battery, rape, forcible sexual penetration, sodomy, oral sex, all of that stuff.
But
Those are all
harassment's not
crimes.
against
From Wallace K to
Correct.
Harvey Weinstein, all these sexual assault victims could have been possibly prevented if the Wallace K case wasn't swept underneath the carpet.
So let's say right off the bat, Rocking the Couch is Amazon Prime,
Correct.
correct?
Mhm.
And that's where people can
Can
find
catch it, yeah.
Can catch it.
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to your conversation with Min
Mhm.
and deciding that you'd wanted to do a documentary on this subject,
Mhm.
how did you find out about Wallace K in particular, or how did that happen?
I actually found out from my husband, who is the criminal defense attorney in the documentary. He knew all about the story. And what I thought was so interesting is I was certainly an actress here in Hollywood in the 1990s. I knew nothing of this. Had you ever heard of
Nope,
this?
never.
And, you know, I'm telling Min the story, and he's like, I've never heard about this. And I thought, well, that is the whole point.
That's the problem.
How come we have not heard?
Yeah.
And maybe if we had heard about this story, if we had heard of what happened, maybe there would have been some changes. Maybe Harvey Weinstein, the whole thing wouldn't have
Absolutely.
happened. You know, maybe people suffered needlessly because somehow a story like this was kind of swept under the rug.
What's the story? What's Wallace K's story? What happened?
Wallace Kaye was a talent agent, and I think it's 12, or I forget whether it's 11, and then an extra one added on. Actresses, he called them in. They were all looking for representation, and he sexually assaulted each and every one of them. They went to the unions. They went to SAG and AFTRA and complained. Basically, the unions, which broke my heart because I am a union girl, but they said, you know, suck it up and get on with it. They did nothing. But one girl who was non-union went to the police. And in going to the police, then the police started investigating it. And then one woman who I think is sort of the hero of the documentary, because she went undercover as an actress, knowing full well what she was getting into.
But she was never an actress.
She was never an actress.
Okay.
She was always a cop, very pretty woman. So she went in, pretending she was an actress, and the same thing happened to her. But because of that, they were able to take him to court.
One thing I found fascinating about the undercover story was she says, you know, I've been trained for scenarios to protect myself. Like I know how to protect myself.
Right.
Physically and how to get in and out of a situation. But even that undercover spot, how vulnerable it made her feel and how terrified she was.
Absolutely. And being there for the interview, and I'll say that I thought one of my most important jobs as producer was to be the only female in the room so that these people could feel comfortable talking about this subject with me. And sitting there hearing her story, I mean, she was a real hero. She went in there and seeing that vulnerability in her and how she felt when this happened. I mean, it really it was one of the most poignant moments to me of the documentary, to see how a trained professional,
knowing what was going to happen.
knowing what was going to happen.
Still.
You would think, okay, I know what I'm getting into. I got
Right,
this.
right.
I know there's people outside the door
Right.
ready to bust it in if I'm in trouble.
Right.
Yet, what if
And
they don't get
still,
here in time?
yeah.
And then you're thinking, what about these poor young actresses who come in there, who don't have somebody on the other side of the door, who don't know how to protect themselves? I thought that really drove it home.
When you decided, okay, we got the angle, Wallace K, we're going to investigate this. How did you go about finding the women, like Tanya and Alana Crow,
Right.
to tell their stories?
Well, I had known Tanya for decades, you know, in the soap world, as I had known Carrie and Alana. I had to do some research. I just started researching and calling people and finding the undercover cop, Alana, who was one of the victims, the police commissioner who's involved, the defense attorney, the prosecutor. I had to go find them all. And they all, what was interesting is this case was so not heard by anybody, and they were all like, oh my gosh, you are the first person to get in touch with us. We've always expected somebody would come knocking on the door.
Isn't that crazy?
And nobody had. I couldn't believe that I'm no journalist. You know? That's not my cup of tea, but I was the first person to call, and they all wanted to talk.
Carrie, you come from a fascinating background. You come from a Hollywood lineage. Your grandfather was Robert Mitchum. Your mother's uncle, Harold Lloyd
yeah.
from the silent era. Do you think having that lineage gave you a different experience as an actress, a young actress in Hollywood?
It definitely gave me a different experience. I think that I just wasn't as vulnerable. I wasn't seen as prey. Pretty much, I mean, I have the same last name as my grandfather, so even if people didn't know me personally, they knew my lineage, and so that acted somewhat of a shield, because people didn't want to get on the bad side of what is seen as a big industry family.
Now, you said everybody knew this was going on.
I believe so. I mean, I knew, and
I knew.
Yeah, it's you know, one of the things that it's a double-edged sword, because there was plenty of women that were willing to sleep their way to the top, and then that set a precedent, I think, for men and women, but that set a precedent for the predators to at least try that route, and that created victims.
And may I say something too, that I think
Please.
Carrie, and one reason I so wanted Carrie in the documentary is because she does bring that lineage, that pedigree of people from a generation we don't really have anyone to talk to about, but also because she so bravely talked about that we all knew. And that was another reason we wanted to do the documentary, because we were watching these A-list celebrities get on there with the Harvey Weinstein thing saying, oh, we didn't know anything about this.
There was complicity.
Yeah, and
for
you're like,
sure.
everybody
Yes.
knew.
Everybody knew. If I knew, and Andrea knew, and I wasn't even really exposed to it, so if I knew, everybody knew.
Now, with the Wallace K case, he was charged. He was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years?
5.5 years. I think.
5.5 years. And everyone thought things will change. This is out in the open. You know, there's a lot of press, there's a lot of media, there's a lot of coverage. Maybe things will start to change.
Right. But there wasn't that much
wasn't.
coverage. There was a little bit of press in comparison. I think 48 Hours did something on it or something like that. And I can't even find it on their website as an old episode or anything, because I researched it trying to get people to see how much press there was on this and why doesn't anybody know about it. There was a little bit, and then it stopped. It was like, I think the industry, everybody in it turned a blind eye to it, and I think part of that is societal differences now.
It reminded me of, Gina Davis had talked about when they did Thelma and Louise, how it was such a groundbreaking film for women. And after that film, women would be presented with strong roles and the industry would change, and nothing changed.
Right, similar.
Is it timing? Is it just the stars aligned and now everyone's just socially ready to accept?
I think there's truth to that.
I think there's truth to that, and I also think that this hasn't played out. I don't know if 5 years from now it's going to just be back to the way it was.
We hope not.
I hope not, and I hope that this whole thing is going to have forward momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But that remains to be seen, I think. I think this goes back to the question too. Again, people have said to me, okay, we get it. There was a problem. We get it. Let's move forward. Why is this so important to continue this conversation?
I think it's important for many reasons. Number one, we don't want it shoved under the rug anymore. We don't want it to continue. And I think part of the documentary, too, it's a bit of a cautionary tale for people that want to get into the entertainment industry. Because my personal belief is one reason this has happened to begin with is like, if you want to become a lawyer, you know that you get your bachelor's, then you take the LSAT, then you go to law school, you pass the bar. There's a path. If you want to become a surgeon, there's a path. If you want to get into the entertainment industry, I can't tell you how to do it. Can you tell them how to do it?
It's so true.
You know, there's no clear path. So I would imagine if you were somebody just coming into Hollywood wanting to get work, you do things like go to Craigslist. I mean, that horrified me when I heard that.
Yes.
I'm thinking, oh my goodness.
There's no guidance counselor. You
Yeah.
know? There's no network where your school helps you get a job.
Exactly. And then the one group you want to complain to didn't help you if something goes awry, which is the union. We don't have HR. We're independent contractors, essentially. You know, we go from job to job. So I think that was the environment that allowed this to really blossom. But now that there's social media, everybody's got cameras with them all the time. Everybody knows what's going on. And society seems to have shifted somehow, which allowed a documentary like Rocking the Couch to exist.
Right. One of the things I really enjoyed about the documentary is you give just a little bit of a tidbit of history, you know, of sexual harassment and assault in the entertainment industry, going back to the Fatty Arbuckle story. And then there's the Natalie Wood story. And I love classic Hollywood. You know, TCM is on 24/7 in our house. And I would have loved 2 hours of just history of this in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry. So I'm hoping you'll create another documentary on just that.
We'd love to, because there is a lot of that history.
There really is. Just the objectification of women in general. I mean, when you look at Judy Garland being put on diet pills at whatever age, 14 or something. I mean, just the complete objectification of women. And men, but more women.
More women.
The studio system was brutal on women.
Oh, completely brutal. And we joked making it that, you know, we got like the Fatty Arbuckle story and stuff. I said, you know, I bet there were stories in vaudeville. We just don't know it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We talk, and you brought this up just now briefly about, this has primarily been a women's story. You know, it's women's voices, women's experiences, women speaking about other women's experiences. But women aren't the only victims.
Correct.
In this. And I feel, and I know you feel an obligation to show that men are also victims in this.
Correct.
And in the documentary, from a victim's, and I hate the word victim, but you know, from someone who's experienced sexual harassment and or assault, there are no men. So speak on that.
Well, we tried to get men, in particular gay men, because it's very prevalent in that area, and we couldn't get them to talk. You know, so my hat goes off to the Terry Cruzes of the world and people who are...
Corey's talking now.
Yes, exactly, and are talking, because for the life of me, I could not get one to talk.
Because...
I don't know, maybe the stigma.
More of a stigma.
More of a stigma for men.
That because they're men, they're strong, and what's the stigma?
I think straight guys don't want to be perceived as gay. I think there is the stigma of you know, your
not
masculinity
being macho
is shamed.
Or whatever,
And I mean, I think that statistically across the board in any kind of molestation or abuse, men speak up a lot less than women.
Yes. Yeah, and it's not like it doesn't occur, but I think men just really don't talk about it.
Men don't report rape.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't.
I know I tried. I tried really hard.
That just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because those stories are just as valid. You know, their voices are just as important.
And they don't have an outlet.
Yeah. They are just
So
as
it
important.
makes it really tragic.
And you have to give credit to, say, the guys in the whole, Catholic Church scandal who came forward.
Who came forward, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a double-edged sword thing. In fact, I talk about this a lot in interviews. Because you have with the whole Me Too movement and all this people saying, well, why didn't you bring it up? Why didn't you talk about it for 30 years? What's your proof? Which, for women, they're always asked this. Now, you take it back to the Catholic Church scandals where it's usually young boys that were attacked. Those boys weren't asked to provide proof. They weren't asked why it was 30 years. Why are the women asked?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because somehow a child's experience of story is more valid.
Well, I think it's also the societal difference that, I don't know how you were raised or whatever. I was raised to, you don't want to dress too provocatively because then you're asking for it.
Yeah.
Or, somehow like the
Right.
woman is responsible for what happens to them.
Meanwhile, we're all in for ingenue parts.
Right.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
We're all told to dress a certain way.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Be sexy.
Yes.
So there's, it's a double-edged sword. Yes, men aren't coming forward, but in many ways they aren't asked, to prove themselves quite as much as women are in this area.
And
So-
to be put in these vulnerable positions.
Correct.
Right.
As much. Now, I know in February of 2018, SAG-AFTRA released a sexual harassment code of conduct.
Mhm.
According to them, this code is part of a sweeping 4 pillars of change approach to achieving a harassment-free workplace and advancing equality. Now, I know Min was quoted as saying, "We tried multiple times to have SAG representatives to appear on camera and never got any response."
Correct.
Speak on the complicity of the union.
Well,
And I know this is hard.
it is hard.
It's
yes.
hard.
I've been a member of SAG-AFTRA since I was like 10 years old. It's always been in my life. I love my union, and they've done a lot for me, But in this area, I don't know where they were. I don't know what they were thinking. The bylaws of the union, that one of their first jobs is to protect the members of the union. Telling them to just suck it up and move on is not protecting them.
No, but you know what? It's my experience, and I had it recently. I was the executive chef at City College up in Santa Barbara, and I had a boss that was really inappropriate, and I talked to my union about it, and I got that response. It was, you know what, just write it out, don't say anything until you've been here a year, and then make noise. But this is my union,
Right.
and so I don't know of an example where a union does step forward. I would love to know that
Yeah.
exists, but for some reason it's a topic they don't want to address and they don't
Right.
deal with.
Wow. And the chef world is so male-oriented, too.
Oh, it is. It's a guy's world.
Yeah, but it was really, really disappointing, and we even presented to them because I was the one who sent all the emails and everything, and said to them, please, I love you. You've been in my life forever. Please come tell your side. Please tell us why this is going on and explain more in depth about what's going on and how you want to change it. And after 30 attempts,
Crickets, nothing.
nothing.
So do you think it was the Wallace K case in particular, or just the topic in general was just they don't even want to?
I think the topic in general is, and this in February of 2018, we were all still reeling from, the Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein things, and they probably felt very much under attack. I get that, but this is your opportunity to explain yourself and maybe
Speak up.
speak up so that we all understand where you were, why this
and
happened.
to let people know that, hey, we're here for you now.
Yes.
If
and
we
tell
weren't
us
before.
maybe we screwed up in the past, but we got it together now.
Yeah.
Alana Crow in the documentary. Twice. 2 scenarios.
Yep.
When I'm watching it and the second one starts to
I'm
unravel,
looking at you.
I'm like,
You're
are
tearing
you
up
kidding
now.
me?
You're tearing up now.
This is, and her going to the union and getting the same response. And I'm thinking, we're raised as women to respect authority figures. And the union is, an authority figure, or, a policeman is an authority figure. And when those authority figures betray us or disappoint us and let us down and don't protect us the way that they're supposed to protect us, that scars you for life.
Yeah.
And what I loved about this documentary is the message of, if you go to the union, or if you go to, to the police station, or if you're getting no support and encouragement, just keep finding someone until you do find that support.
Right. But who were they going to find?
I don't know. That's what was so
It's like
frustrating.
Mr. Rogers saying, "Look for the grown-ups." You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
kind of where you are.
But if there's no
It's
grown-ups,
like,
what are you going to do? Yeah, what are you going to do? And as actors, there's nowhere to go. If your executive producer is coming on to you and saying, who are you supposed to tell? Because anybody under him doesn't want to say anything because they're going to get fired.
Yeah.
The union doesn't help you. The network certainly isn't going to help you. So where do you go? Who? Your agent? No, they're not going to help you.
And if you make a lot of noise, you're very easily replaced.
You're
I
difficult.
think. Yeah, you're difficult and easily replaced, and you don't work again.
Yeah.
So are you saying at this point in the game, telling the stories is important, but we're still in that situation of nothing much has changed?
Well, I don't know that that's true. I think the very fact that we're sitting here talking about it is a change. The very fact that we have this documentary out is a change. The Harvey Weinstein, the Bill Cosby thing. I mean, in the 1980s, if you would have told me that America's father, Bill Cosby, would be spending the rest of his life in prison, I would have thought you were insane.
I wanted to, I remember watching the show and thinking, if I'm going to be a parent one day, this is the kind of parent I want to be.
Absolutely.
So when this all happened, it was devastating.
Absolutely. Talk about being sort of betrayed by this image of a man Jell-O pudding. I mean, he was just, you just loved him dancing in the credits on his show. And, but times have changed. So the very fact that happened in the Harvey Weinstein thing, and, things are changing. Well, how fast will they change? I don't know.
Which is why it's important to keep having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Because you got to keep feeding the fire. You got to keep feeding the momentum.
Which is why the documentary is valuable, even to those people that are saying, okay, I get it. You have to keep getting it. Change is created by constant getting it, by momentum. It's like a snowball. It starts small and then it grows as it rolls down the hill. And that's what you have to do. And hopefully we are some small
part of that change.
We are a few little snowflakes on that journey.
On that giant
snowball. Is this your first producer?
Yes, it is.
So, how was that?
It was
acting's
fun.
your thing.
Acting's my thing.
Yeah.
Acting is still my main thing. But I want to continue doing the producing as well.
Because?
Enjoy it. Hey, I'm the boss, dude.
Why not?
Yeah. And there's, I've never been the boss before. So it was kind of fun.
Did you have creative, not control, but did you have, a strong say in just about, the direction that you wanted to go with this?
Yeah, there were the three executive producers, myself, Min Collins, and Jerry Summer, who I should mention. It was three-way. We all had equal amount of decision and in discussing it and how we wanted it to go and to be decided. And which I also thought was very good because we didn't think at the time, and in this day and age of diversity, we have an Asian American director and producer, a woman, and women are only 8% of producers of films, and Jerry is part Hispanic. And so we kind of had a nice little bit of diversity right there and different points of view, so I was very happy about that.
Did you ever find a time, though, that your voice as a woman kind of changed the navigation of the story of the documentary?
Yeah, there were some times I think where particularly, and as I said, I was there for every interview, and there were times in the interviews where I didn't think they asked a question that should be asked, and I thought it was more from a feminine point of view. But I also thought, as I said, I thought it was important for me to be at every interview, including Carrie's, in case she wanted to spill on something or tell something really personal. I think it was so important to have a woman there, a woman in the room, and a woman's point of view. Because even though this does happen to men, it is still mostly a female story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Carrie, did you leave the entertainment industry because of all this?
I left the entertainment industry pretty much because I was tired of the focus being on my appearance. I think I mentioned in the documentary I developed a pretty bad eating disorder, and I I felt so much pressure to look great all the time, and I just was tired of being on a diet,
being hungry all the time.
Yeah. And it just became too uncomfortable for me. It wasn't my happy place. I loved acting. I wasn't the mature adult. I mean, I started young, and I wasn't the mature adult that I am now. And so I didn't really know how to handle the pressure. And I just sort of became someone that I wasn't happy with. And so when my son was born, I took a big step back, but I did, I think, 2 films after that. And then I went back to Bold and Beautiful for a little bit. But for the most part, I ended when I guess my daughter was born.
What do you want people to take away from this documentary?
A couple things. Like I said, I would love to think that we will help some people who are getting into the industry, and it will give them sort of guidelines, like don't go out for drinks, things like that. Don't check Craigslist for auditions, things like that. But I also hope what they take away is thinking about the business and thinking how it was, and maybe some of the things that we heard during the whole Harvey Weinstein thing that weren't coming out, like how intricately woven into the whole entertainment industry this problem is. Putting one man, because he's kind of the poster child for this, putting one man into that situation is not going to solve the problem. It's much deeper than that. And so we still need a lot of work on it.
I think also, too, would be to encourage actresses, actors to talk to each other, because I was shocked, even with the Harvey Weinstein thing, at some of my friends that came forward, and the A-list people that have won Oscars who came forward and said, well, he did that to me too. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me,
Right.
But there was either everyone knew it was going on, but no one wanted to say it happened to them, or no one wanted to talk about it. And I think that had we all talked about it, everyone would have known, hey,
Right.
don't go to that.
But we didn't.
No, we didn't. It was quiet.
Yeah.
So the communication and the sharing of the stories takes away some of the vulnerability. Yes?
Takes away some of the vulnerability, the stigma,
And what to
and opportunity.
expect. Yeah. You don't walk into it and get blindsided.
What do you mean, and the opportunity for a situation like
Well,
that?
if you
to
protect
happen?
yourself, then then you don't put yourself. It takes away that opportunity if you protect yourself in advance. Like I said, you don't go on Craigslist. You don't meet someone for a drink.
You don't let them come to your apartment.
You don't
at
let them
10
come
at
to your
night.
apartment. Yeah, and if you know that these are the problems, if you know this is what's going on, you can protect yourself. You can't protect yourself from something that you don't know exists.
Yeah.
It's shocking to me still how the fingers are pointed. If a woman goes to dinner with an agent or a casting director, and people on the outside are saying, hello, how could you not know that that's not a good idea? But again, speaking to, I don't know what I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And also the sort of looseness of the entertainment industry. I have been to legitimate auditions in hotel rooms.
Right. Exactly.
It does exist legitimately, but there's certain precautions you take. No things to make it correct. But I remember meeting with a theater producer, and he came in from out of town, so he would get a suite, and he would have the meetings there in the living room area of the suite, and that's not uncommon. So, but you have to kind of know what to protect yourself from, because those situations do exist, but certainly don't put yourself in more situations.
Yeah. And I was always lucky too that I always had really cautious agents. My agents were always almost, parental in their protectiveness.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because talking about the support system
Yes.
is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's one of the few places that there is support.
Yeah.
If anybody wants you to get the job and keep the job maybe as much as you, it's your agent.
Right. That's true.
How important is it to listen to that voice, that gut instinct?
Totally.
Very.
Yeah, completely. I think with everything in life, you know, you have to listen to that inside voice. If it tells you something is wrong,
pay attention.
It probably is.
And give yourself permission to listen to the voice.
Exactly. and give yourself permission as a woman to take action and get yourself out of that situation.
Yeah.
Because so often we don't want to get in trouble.
We're taught to be good girls.
Yes. And overcoming that, it's a stigma.
Yeah.
Overcoming that stigma, it takes, I don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah.
I just don't know how long it's going to take.
Right.
Like we said, hopefully it's that little snowball.
Yeah.
You know, growing and growing, and maybe, like one thing, my daughter who just turns 15 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
She wanted to come to, while we were shooting, she had spring break. She wanted to come. And I was like, I don't know if I want her to hear this, do I want her to do this? But she wants to go into the entertainment industry. So I'm like, no, I want her to hear it. I want her to hear it from other people. I want her to see, because again, I want her to be able to protect herself. And you can't protect yourself from something you don't know is there.
Was she surprised at the stories, or?
She was surprised, and at one she was crying. But it was like, she says, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for her. I can't believe this happened. And I said, well, it does happen. And if you know it does happen, you can protect yourself better.
Yeah.
Does this mean that you've been greenlit for other series?
You mean docuseries?
Docuseries?
Very possibly.
Is that possible?
Very possibly. We are talking about maybe another one. You can't talk about it.
So have you been bitten by the bug?
Yeah. But, I love this business, and it's funny in this movie, in this documentary, I'm kind of showing the bad underbelly of the business, but I'd be willing to bet most every business has an underbelly to it.
That's
I've just
another
never
really
been in
good
another
point.
one.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. This focus has been on Hollywood and the entertainment industry, but sexual harassment and assault is across the board.
Yeah.
Right.
It gives Hollywood a bad name, but this is across the board, and this experience happens to women everywhere.
In every line of work.
In every line of work.
Yeah.
What did you take away from this, Carrie?
I think one of the things that I'm learning just as a woman is what you were talking about, listening to my instincts, and also practicing that. I find myself being the person, even in the grocery store, say two people want an item and I'll back off if some guy reaches for it first. I do that in a lot of aspects of my life. And I realize that you have to train yourself to be bold. You have to train yourself to stand up for yourself and to listen to your own voice, even if you don't speak it. And so I think going forward in life, it's a really important lesson. And I'm still growing up when it comes to that,
Every day.
Yeah.
Yes. Just on a personal note, when I started with hosting, it was uncomfortable because I wasn't used to speaking my voice.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And that shocked me.
Yeah.
Literally hearing my voice was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Saying my name.
Right.
Was uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say day in and day out of making that conscious choice to be bold, it's so true.
And what seems bold maybe to me or you is probably normal to, say, a guy that's raised in a society where they're encouraged to speak their voice. I had a psychic tell me recently that she felt like picking up on me was that I've always felt that my voice wasn't heard. And she was talking about my scar on my neck from my recent surgery. And she says that all is compounded there. And I thought about that. And I thought, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about. But the more I think about it, the more it's true. We censor ourselves so much because we don't want to be seen as difficult, or we don't want to make waves. It's like, it's okay to make waves.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's almost I don't know if the word's a dichotomy, but we don't want to make waves, yet because of the hashtag Me Too movement, everyone's so PC now.
Right.
And we're so hyper conscious of, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and how is this person going to react? So how do you strike that balance of speaking your voice and being honest and
carefully?
But you know what? And just listening to that, I feel for me it's almost the opposite, because I've done so many interviews for so long as my characters and what people have seen of me on television and film. Actually, talking about this documentary is the first time I've had people interview me, and I felt like I could be me. You know, and I'm actually asked intelligent questions and expected to give an intelligent answer. And it's been very liberating for me.
Yeah. Documentaries are fun.
They are fun. Absolutely.
it's a whole other animal.
I've always been a fan of them, too.
It
I
truly
love
is.
documentaries.
Yeah.
Now, Andrea, you've said the love of my life and the love of my career is daytime television. I would absolutely love to go back. I'm interested in visiting Salem, which I laughed out loud because, you know, we do the recap Dish Days for Days of Our Lives.
Yes.
So I'm sure Salem would love to have you. I'd love to visit Port Charles, and if Landview, please, if Landview came back, I'd be happy to visit there too. With you both coming from the soap world, soap operas, and the one things I've always loved about the soap world is they've always been relevant topically. You know, they've addressed very sensitive issues for 50, I don't know, General Hospital is what, 55?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, Days is 54, I think Bold is 37. You know, year after year, decade after decade, they've attacked sensitive topics.
Long before prime time and other places. Absolutely.
So I almost feel that this documentary felt natural to the both of you on some level.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, but maybe. Yeah, maybe that's why it is coming from some
quick
soap opera stars.
turnaround.
But also maybe the relevancy of it is coming from some soap opera stars, because we are more used to talking about those topical issues.
Right.
And we are.
And in the documentary, it broke my heart to hear about those experiences from actresses
Absolutely.
in the soap opera world. Because I never even thought about it. How blind is that for me to think? I'd never thought about that happening in the soap opera world. But of course, it's happened everywhere, whether it's television or, you know, a digital drama or a soap opera. It can happen everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in every business, as
And
we
in
said.
every business.
Yep.
Carrie, what can we look forward to in the future? What can you tell us?
No.
Because you are in the culinary world.
I am.
That's
I
your.
am.
I was gonna say that's your jam. No pun intended.
Wow. Whoa. Yeah, that's a good one, though. Yeah. I admire that.
That's good. No, you know, I've actually, Andrea and I have been talking about a documentary that I want to do. And so I'm in the very beginning stages of that, but she's expressed some interest in getting on board. So I think this documentary bug has bitten me. I did a documentary with Bruce Weber on my grandfather, and I've been going around the world promoting that as well. And so I really love this niche of the industry.
What's the name of the documentary?
Nice Girls Don't Stay for Breakfast.
Oh.
Which is, it's really kind of funny that I'm promoting a documentary based on my grandfather, and it's called Nice Girls Don't Stay for Breakfast. And, you know, his sexploits were legendary, and then rocking the couch. It's sort of, but, you know, life is balanced.
That's right.
And then totally off from that, I'm in the beginning phases of doing a vegan dog food. So it's a sustainable, plant-based dog food and lifestyle. Basically, we're going to do clothes, bedding.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
So two totally different entities, but they sort of meld somewhere in my brain.
Well, it's part of the creative world.
I personally think she should be on TV cooking, too.
I do, too. We had that discussion
Yes,
just a
we
little
did.
bit before we were on air.
Yes, I think she definitely should be.
Yes.
I think the Food Network ought to snap, you know,
Are you
just snatch her
listening?
up
Is
so
there someone on
fast.
Food Network
Are
listening
you
to this?
listening?
Podcast Food Network people, are you listening?
Yeah.
Besides more documentaries and the Bay, anything else you want to?
Well, that's what's been
Let
going
us
on right
know.
now. But, you
Yeah.
know, there's always other different acting stuff going on. I have a couple projects in development right now, so we'll see what happens there. And, you know, I just love this business, so you can't get rid of me. I'll be somewhere.
Do you think the producing experience has helped you going forward in regards to getting projects that you want?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you come from a different different space now.
But you kind of learn how things are done, what the process is, because you could continue in this business forever as an actor and not know anything about that side of it. Yeah. So I think the more you learn about the different sides, the better. And I think.
Do you think it's given you skills going forward as an actress?
Oh, absolutely.
As far as learning how to manage getting parts and.
Yeah, and I think now I can look at it from different eyes, you know, and yeah, I think that's a huge help, and I love it.
Remind us where we can find Rocking the Couch.
You can find Rocking the Couch on Amazon Prime, as well as my show, The Bay, too. Might as well pitch that, too. I was saying to somebody here, you know, who knew that the same people that deliver my coffee pods were going to be my boss?
It's a wild world.
Yeah. And where can people find you on social media, Carrie?
I don't really have a social media presence as of now. I have my own Facebook, but it's just private and with like almost 4,000 or 5,000 friends, but still.
Yeah.
You know?
You're not on Twitter?
I don't tweet.
I do.
But I have to learn how to do all of that.
I know, it's a thing for us. But you can find me at Andrea Evans Prod, like short for production.
Okay. Ladies, thank you. This has been, it's been an emotional ride. I mean, it's been an emotional ride for the two of you. But just,
absolutely.
You know, even as a viewer, I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm not affected by this topic.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that your voices will continue to carry.
I hope so, too.
Wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure and check out our interview. You can find it on Popcorn Talk, iTalk Movies. Thank you again, ladies. It's been an honor.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.